Hello folks, good to see you today. Today we are going to be doing a video and this video is going to be a multitude of videos for one that we're going to do as a series on this channel. But we are going to be reviewing films, or at least I am going to be reviewing films. I'm sure Logan here will hop in at some point. And essentially, I'm going to be reviewing for the first one. We got a very special one here. I'm very into gangster films, and we're going to be reviewing The Godfather today. Now, Logan hasn't seen The Godfather. I have. It's an incredible film, and that's why I picked this one today because it's special. Say hi, Logan.
Hello.
Well, Logan's there. He's watching us. So
Let's see. Everything goes to plan.
Yeah, making sure everything goes to plan this time.
We're not going to explain what we spent the last hour doing.
Yeah, but it failed. And essentially, this is the plot of The Godfather. Regarded as one of the best American films ever, Francis Ford Coppola's epic masterpiece features Marlon Brando in his Oscar-winning role as the patriarch of the Corleone family. The Godfather is a violent and chilling portrait of the Sicilian family's struggle to stay in power in a post-war America of corruption, deceit, and betrayal. Coppola begins his legendary trilogy, masterfully balancing the story of the Corleone's family life and the ugly crime business in which they are engaged. Based on Mario Puzo's best-selling novel and featuring career-making performances by Al Pacino, James Caan and Robert Duvall, this serene and brilliant film garnered 10 Academy Award nominations and won 3, including Best Picture of 1972. Now, to give a bit of background on this film, something very interesting with The Godfather that I would like to point out is that this film, when it was made, it was the first film of its kind, the first real, true, realistic and authentic mafia film. Now, back then, again, you had films like Scarface, in the 30s, you had White Heat, with James Cagney and The Public Enemy, but those weren't really realistic as such, whereas The Godfather was the first one to do it right. And the Mafia responded to it by putting a hit out on the director of the film. I think it was, or it was the writer of the book. Sorry, it might have been that. But they did not like it when it got made. Mafia guys were angry. Some of the pit bosses, the bosses, were really mad at the directors because they thought it was going to be a film that was promoting Sicilians, and that's what they led it to believe. And obviously, that didn't happen in the film. It portrayed them as bad people, and they didn't like that because of it. Now, essentially, The Godfather is about Vito Corleone. I read the blurb, but Vito Corleone, he's the head of the Corleone family, and he's one of the heads of the 5 families. He's involved in crime, in gambling, but not drugs, and that's an element of the film that comes back in the first half. So the first 40 minutes of the film is about his daughter's wedding, and it's about people coming to see him in his daughter's wedding. And obviously, people have to turn up and celebrate and all that. And then he invites people in to give him favours, and that's something that is referenced a lot in the film, that on his daughter's wedding day, you should never refuse an offer or a favour from a person. So, you get a few people that go up to him, and you get very famous scenes where they offer him something. They offer him money, they offer him protection, they offer him services for a favour that he should do with them. And that involved crime, betrayal, and deceit. And essentially, he carries them out in the first hour of the film. And then that's that. That's portraying the family as what it is. The second hour of the film, mind you, these are 3-hour crime films, the Godfather trilogy. The second hour of the film is about Don Corleone, or Vito Corleone, starting to lose trust and starting to lose power. And when something happens to him about halfway through the film, which causes him to go into hospital, and then Michael Corleone, which is the son that isn't involved with the crime and doesn't want to live that lifestyle, starts to get pulled into the world of violence and corruption. And it takes a very dark turn when he takes the reins of the family and he becomes the next Don of the Mafia family, of the Corleone family. And he basically changes almost instantly. He changes from a man that is a veteran and he went to war and he lost a lot of his friends in battle, and he's a kind-hearted man, to a ruthless kingpin in the criminal underworld. And then the third hour, which is the ending of all of the film, is about how Vito Corleone gets older and tiresome and passes his role as Don over to Michael to control of the criminal family that he ruled. And he has to do so because you can see that in his mental state he's not doing good as the Godfather, as Don Corleone. So he has to pass it over to Michael. And then culminating in one of the best endings to a film I've ever seen, where the people in the film that you've been hating the entire film get theirs, and it's so satisfactory. Obviously, I'm not going to get into too many spoilers because there are a lot of people that I know that haven't seen the film. But now I'm going to get into characters. Now, Don Corleone, Vito Corleone, is probably in my top 5 favourite performances of a film I've ever seen. He just played that mob role perfectly. There was nothing wrong with it. It was very authentic for the time as well. It's way ahead of its time. 1972 the film came out. And, I mean, The Godfather was very much a film that it was $7 million. Like, $7 million back then, today is probably $30 million. So, it was a lot of money at the time to make a film. But the film pulled in $500 million in its first month, because of how good the story was and because of how compelling that Vito Corleone was as a Don, as a character in the film. Now, I know that people have said that Marlon Brando has a huge controversy in acting because he works differently, and nobody went to see his films anymore at the time of the release because he was a huge hassle to work with and a huge hassle on stage and that, and on Broadway. But The Godfather is the best performance that I've ever seen of him, and he just played that role to perfection. And his character is very much a person that he's conflicted in corruption, but you still root for him because he's doing it for survival. He's not, and he respects people. He's the only person that I've ever seen, really, that doesn't rule by fear. And that's very unique about The Godfather when it comes to the film and the book. He's even like it in the book. He's even more friendly in the book. He rules by respect and loyalty, not by fear and money and greed. Whereas Michael does that in the second film, but that's another review. But yeah, in terms of his character, it's some of the best characterization I've ever seen of it in a film. And he just plays it perfectly from the opening credits to the end. Now, talking about Michael Corleone, who's the heir to the throne that comes, basically. And Michael's an interesting character because you see more in the second film of his conflictedness, but he has a girlfriend called Kate that he eventually gets married to in the second half of the film. But every time I watch it, I feel for Michael. I feel for Michael because he's a person that he doesn't like to kill. He doesn't like the corruption. He doesn't like the gambling and living the lifestyle as a gangster. He just doesn't. And you can see that in him whenever he's in a scene where he is the Don, is that he has to be the brave one and he has to be the one that stands up to everyone and take the reins that his father built, basically. And in the second half of the film, he basically becomes the kingpin of the criminal underworld at the very end of the film. And that whole journey is amazing of how they went from a person that's very nice and very friendly, just like his father is to other people, but just without corruption, to how he can be a ruthless kingpin at the very end of it is just brilliant to me. And then you get into smaller characters like Fredo Corleone, which Fredo is very much... He's the oldest son of the Corleone family, which he believes that means that he's the rightful heir to the throne of the criminal underworld once his father goes on and passes on. But he's very much the dumb one. He's very much the one that makes a lot of the stupid decisions. And he's more of a character that's important in the second film than in the first film. He gets more of a dynamic to work with in the second one, whereas with the first one, he's just kind of there. But I mean, there's even a really gripping scene in the second half where he invites Michael to go to Las Vegas to deal with Mo Green, who Mo Green was basically based off Bugsy Siegel, another famous gangster during that time. And he was influenced to go there and basically buy out the casinos and the hotels that Mo Green runs. And when he gets there, he basically puts in a band, a bunch of strippers and all that for Michael. And Michael says, I'm here on family business, and, you know, what is this? I'm here on family business. You know, get the band out. Get the poker guys out. Get the casino guys out. So then, he's very much... That's very much a scene where he stands with Mo rather than with Michael. And Michael just looks at him and says, never take sides with anyone against the family again, ever. And he basically lets him know that if you take sides against anyone and betray me, I'll kill you again, which is an element that comes back into the second film, which is really... That's how they set the second film up really well. And essentially, yeah, Fredo's the dumb one. Now, Tom Hagen, there's actually a book by Ed Falco called The Family Corleone. I haven't read that yet. But that's basically about Tom Hagen and how he was brought in. But he's not Sicilian. He's just an American. And how he was actually adopted by the Corleones. And he's a very interesting character because he plays... In the first portion of the film with Don Corleone, he is Don Corleone's lawyer and consigliere. And in the second half of the film, Michael just makes him a lawyer in Las Vegas and makes him look out to some of the stuff in Las Vegas with his wife and children. So he's very much a conflicted character where he wants to be a part of the underworld, but yet Michael restrains him from being part of the underworld. That really is the main characters, other than the fact that you see Talia Shire play Connie Corleone in the film, who's very much a conflicted character, where she's very violent and she, well, not violent as in like kill people, but she very much harasses people and makes a fool of herself a lot of the film, which leads to, and that's the person that gets married, that's his daughter that gets married in the first 40 minutes of the film, and then that leads to something brutal later on in the very end of the film. And essentially the other one that you have is Sonny Corleone. Now Sonny is the one out of the family that's so into the mob violence that he just wants to kill people left and right. He wants to do things the dirty way. And he's very entertaining to see him, played by James Caan, rest in peace now. But yeah, James Caan, fantastic actor in films, and he was fantastic in The Godfather, and how his fate ended up was horrible, brutal way to die. And essentially, that's where a lot of the second half comes from, is the vengeance of Sonny's death. That's the one spoiler I will admit to, is that Sonny dies, but that spoiler basically leads to the vengeance of the rest of the film, is that Michael wants to get vengeance, but yet his father just wants peace with everyone, and essentially it's that crime and lust and that power that eventually comes through into the second half of the film that causes his downfall, and that's really unique. And then the only a member of the Corleones is I can't remember her name now, but she wasn't very significant in the two films. Was Vito Corleone's wife, and she's more of a character, like again in the second film, like Fredo is, because she gets involved in. There's two stories in that film rather than just one. She gets more involvement in that film, and she's in it for a few scenes, but she did a good job, and she played a very good role looking after her husband. And so that's as far as the main characters, I'd say. Of course, you've got characters like Tessio in there, that's very charming. You've got Clemenza, which is a great addition. You've got the evil character of Barzini in there, who's the evil one, who's the mobster. You've got the Tartaglias, you've got the Greens, you've got who's the other guy, the guy in the first half. You've got Luca Brasi, which is very much a well-known name in the film. There's so many iconic references that I could point over, like Sleeping with the Fishes, and that is another one. I mean, like, there's so many iconic references in the film. Now, what do I actually think of the film? And I've got to be honest, this is a film that's in my top 10. I think I even ranked it that way on my Instagram. I had it like second or third place along with The Godfather Part 2, which is another review that I'll probably do sometime. But the Godfather is just a masterpiece. There's nothing more like... If you are a film fan, you would have heard of The Godfather. There's no question about it. But I know people say, oh, it's overrated. You know, there's films that are better than The Godfather that have been made now. I'm sorry. The Godfather is... I'm not only saying gangster film, but I think it might be the greatest film ever made. Like, it's so close. There is one film that beats it out in my book, and if I do a review on that, I will. But The Godfather is the second greatest film I've ever seen. I think it's perfect from start to finish. That is an absolute 10 out of 10 watch. You need to check it out. I really recommend it. And if you get the chance to sit down, carve out your afternoon for it, because it is a whopping 3 hours long, just like the second one and the third one, and a lot of other crime films. It's 3 hours long, but it is an absolute thrill ride. It may feel slow burn, but trust me, you will not be disappointed in it, because it is an absolute masterpiece of art and cinema. And that's why I give it 10 out of 10. Thank you so much for the video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for The Godfather Part 1. I will see you again for another review. I'm glad to be here doing this review so I can recommend you to watch these films. And yeah, I'll probably do The Godfather Part 2 and 3 because this is a trilogy, of course. And I will continue this series eventually one time. And yeah, so that's basically it. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.